What is going on, guys? Today I'm super excited because I finally have a kit that I never expected would ever exist. Maybe an HGUC at some point in 1/44 scale, but I never expected Bandai to go ahead and make a full-on master grade 1/100 scale Deep Striker. And yet, here we are, and before we even open the box, I just gotta say how awesome this box art is. I think there's been pretty universal love for this box art since we first got a look at it. Someone leaked a photo or something online. As I theorized in a previous video, what I think is going on with this box art, while we usually see the Gundam or the mobile suit or whatever like fighting in space or in some sort of action scene, in this case it's just in like this kind of 3D image map sort of looking sphere thing. And I think the reason for that is because the Deep Striker actually in canon was never actually produced. It was just a plan. I guess maybe hence the name Plan 303E. But I gotta say, after 300 failed plans, you might want to start thinking about hiring a new person to make the plans. But anyway, we finally got up to 303, and it was not actually ever used in the story, so it just remained a plan. But it's we do have the design of it, of course, Kotoki's original design, and it has been a very beloved design. We've seen it come out in the Gundam Fix Figuration line as an official thing. We've seen third-party bootleg companies produce it in 1/144 scale and 1/100 scale before, but this is the first time we finally have a full-on model kit of it from Bandai, and it looks pretty cool. So first thing, just right off the bat, I want to say a huge thank you to USA Gundam Store for supplying me with this kit to share with you guys. Obviously, this kit is pretty pricey, so if you do want to check it out, so you can check it out on USA Gundam Store there and save 10% off of it, which will be a pretty good chunk of change. Use my coupon code there, ZakuAurelius10, the link and the coupon code is down below in the description. Now, I've seen a lot of the common questions about this kit floating around online. I'm going to try to address them as much as I can in this unboxing and then in the review as well. The first thing a lot of people have been asking about is the box size. I've seen people asking, is it as big as the Psycho Zaku box? Is it as big as the Sazabi box? Is it like a perfect grade size box? It's pretty much the exact same size as the perfect grade Exia box, if you've seen that or anything. And it's a big box, so you'll see that. And there's a lot of stuff in there. Obviously, the S Gundam, which is the base of this, is a pretty large Gundam by itself, and then now we have it in its kind of mobile armor platform with this giant cannon and giant disc radome and these giant thrusters for legs, and so yeah, it's pretty big. So let's flip up to the top here. You can see just kind of the same thing. We do have a handle on here as well for carrying that with ease. On this side of the box, just kind of the same thing as what's on the front of the box. It's kind of a shame they didn't put anything else different on the side of the box. Usually they decorate the sides with some different photos and different things, gimmicks of the kit and things like that, but I think they just kind of kept that all for the back, it seems. On the opposite side, however, we do have a front and back view of the full kit, of course built up and painted and all of that in all its majesty. On the back, however, is where we actually have a lot more eye candy. Some pretty just nice design overall. I gotta say that just the graphic designer who did all the layout for this did a pretty good job. We have the mobile armor there, and it's got all these little bits showing what everything actually is on it, because it's a very busy design with a lot of stuff on there. You might not be able to tell exactly what everything is, but you can see it all there. It's all there in English as well, which is pretty awesome. Up here, we got some information about the 7th MS in the Zeta project. Given the full name, Iota Gundam was one of the most unitized Gundam type mobile suits ever. You can go ahead and pause the video and read the rest of that if you'd like. In this section here, Bandai just giving themselves a little pat on the back, saying that although there was no hope of becoming a model kit at the time due to its complexity and enormous size, the Deep Striker is recreated with a faithful structure. Yeah, so they couldn't really make it up until now, apparently, with their previous technology. That being said, from what I've seen of the images of it so far, it doesn't really look like anything too complex. It's just a big, massive kit. There's also a bit here talking about the weapons. Obviously, the massive cannon is going to be kind of the main thing, but it does also have the large disc radome and multi-sensor arm for kind of increased capabilities. And then a bit down here at the bottom, talking about some other details, the cable that connects it, which is actually going to be kind of one of my main concerns about this kit. We'll talk about that later. And just some of the finer details of the landing gear and things like that. It looks like it is going to have maybe a couple of chrome-plated parts in there as well. And the last bit of text here is talking about the refinements made to the S Gundam. The Master Grade S Gundam is pretty old, but what they've done is use some parts of that, but they've made quite a bit of new updates to that. So quite a lot of this kit actually is new, and it's not reused from that kit. So I know that was another concern that a lot of people were having. like, oh, Bandai's just reusing parts from a super old Master Grade. And yes, there are a few, but not really all that many from what I've seen and heard. So we'll take a look at that, obviously, when we pop the box open. And the last bit here, you can see the list price of 20,000 yen. So that's going to be around $200. Again, it's not cheap, but when you're considering how much stuff is going to be in here, this seems pretty spot on, I guess. That said, that list price is more expensive than most perfect grades, so I think that's going to be something people are going to kind of cock their head at. So I think the important thing to remember is that it's not really so much about the grade, master grade or perfect grade, whatever. It's more so about the amount of plastic that's actually in the box. Once we pop the top, we got some more artwork here. Let's get that out of the way and finally get this guy out of here. So in this big old box of stuff, first things we're greeted with is some exciting things and some not so exciting things. Some really huge parts, which are cool, but that's, if you want to be painting that in some different colors, that looks like it's going to be a lot of masking, not a whole lot of part separation there, especially on that big gun. The other thing that's not all that exciting is a $200 kit that only comes with stickers and no water slides. Oh, another thing that I'm just noticing here too is that the long barrel of the cannon is not in whole parts, but it's in halves. So you're going to have a seam line going all the way down the middle of that. Not cool. In this bag here, we can see a whole bunch of screws. That's not all that surprising though. I personally don't really mind. Just a whole bunch of large parts here. Obviously, let's get down to finding some good stuff. We do also have a very large base, which is the same base that was originally produced for perfect grade kits. This one is the base that also comes with the HGUC Neo Xiang, which I also recently unboxed, and we'll be working on snapping that one up for you guys pretty soon here as well. Anyway, here we have the instruction manual, which is pretty big. I mean, it's big. I guess it's as big as I would expect, but I almost would have expected it to be even a little bit larger. So on the back of the manual, we just have a nice big painted image here, just for reference. On the front, just the box art there again. In the center here, a little bit about the story records of the IOTA project. I think that would be, what is that there in the background? It's the Zeta C+, I guess there, okay. So in that very fine print, there's a little bit about the story. We have our painting guide here in a Japanese and English painting guide for the pilot as well, and then a quick tip about panel lining. Now, a quick bit about this, because I did a previous video in the past, a frequently asked question video about Gundam Sentinel and Advance of Zeta as properties that are not actually owned by Bandai. Because Sentinel and Advance of Zeta are actually owned by different companies, they can't actually have images of the pilots and the story. I guess they can like talk about the story, but I guess certain story elements and the imagery of like the pilot, the characters of the story, they can't actually show. Bandai, of course, still owns anything Gundam, so they can still make model kits and toys and all of that of the actual Gundams in the line. But I guess just the characters and the things like that are the parts of the story that can't be reproduced by Bandai due to copyright issues. So that's why in this case we just have a seated pilot figure, which is just generic. It doesn't really show anything else about him or her. Also, again, because in canon it was only ever a design, so it never actually had a pilot. Over here, similarly to what's on the back of the box, there's a breakdown of what each of the individual parts of this kit are, or the design are, because it's quite massive. So here's just telling you what everything is. The main gun, the coaxial fire control sensor, the rear platform, the main gun elevation arc, the large disc radome, and so on. There's a lot of really cool information here if you're interested to hear about that. I'm sure this is all on the Gundam wiki page though, but if you were so inclined, you could check that out as well. So going to our parts list, this looks interesting because this whole bit here has a whole lot of X's on there, and what that would mean to me is that these parts here, these runners with a lot of X's on them, are runners from the original S Gundam, so that's why we have a lot of leftover parts here, including a lot of parts here for like the original shoulder armor, and this kit does have new revised shoulder armor for the kit, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to make like the full-on original shoulders of the S Gundam, which are pretty cool and unique, but there's going to be a lot of leftover parts from this that should be cool for doing some other like custom kit bashing and things like that if you want. Then we have runners like this, the P runner there, where we're basically using just a few parts and have a whole lot of parts left over. But anyway, then from runner R, which is the base, onward, it's going to be kind of mostly all the new parts, it looks like. So we have a whole bunch of polycaps we're not going to use, but then it's just all these new parts here, all this stuff new. So this is actually more runners than I was expecting to be reused from the S Gundam, but as we can see, there's really not all that many parts. It's just a lot of wasted plastic, unfortunately. So it looks like they've got us building the base first, which would be important, and then kind of building it up from the base. That seems like kind of the same order that it went for the XS Gundam, if memory serves. The Master Grade XS Gundam has you build the base first and then kind of the core of the body and then kind of out from there. And this seems like it's going to be doing kind of a similar thing, building the base leg the leg waist section with it doesn't have legs, of course, the large booster units, and then onto the head, the chest, and the booster units for the backpack is kind of the next section. That will take us on past the middle of the manual, so that's kind of like the main center chunk of it, obviously. And then onto the arm units, it does have one regular arm, and then of course the one sensor arm. I'm pretty sure that we do have the parts to make 2 regular arms if you wanted to just not have a sensor arm, I believe, but we'll check that out in the review, of course. And then from there, it's onto the Mega Particle Cannon, which is, again, like I said, doesn't seem to be as part separated as I would have liked, especially in like the main portion of that. But it is pretty involved there, all the pieces for that. And then onto the other weapon, we just have the Beam Smart Gun here. And yeah, that's about it. This section is just going over some of the gimmicks, moving the landing gear, the front and the rear landing gear, and then sliding out the shoulder panels. That's kind of really it seems to be for gimmicks for that. And the last couple pages is just the decal marking guide, where you're going to be putting all those marking stickers around on the kit if you so choose. I'll probably put a few on for the review, but that's pretty much it. Okay, so once again, here is that sticker sheet. A lot of just caution markings, things like that. We have, of course, the Gundam S logo there, the Wave Rider logo there, and otherwise it's just pretty much, yeah, just a bunch of caution markings in red, white, and black. And we have our foil sticker sheet. Now this is just pretty standard for a master grade. It's relatively small, especially for such a large master grade, which means that there's not a lot of missing color apps. One thing though that is a little bit concerning is that there's a lack of clear green parts for this. So for these cameras, if you wanted to have like actual clear green parts for those cameras, it seems like there aren't going to be any in this kit. So those are all just going to be stickers, or you have to just paint those yourself. So if you're the kind of person that likes those clear parts for your cameras, and once again, here is the screws. Looks like we have about 14 in total. And our polycaps here for the kit in just standard gray color. This is PC128, and we've got 2 of this polycap runner. And then we've got our hose parts here, which looks like it's going to be 2 parts. This kind of larger black lead here, which is just it's malleable. You can bend that, and it's kind of more firm. And then we have this soft mesh hose, which will fit over that. And this is the part that I don't like, because I don't think this is going to look good. And all the images that I've seen of it so far, it doesn't really look very good on the finished kit. But as you can see here, that's just going to fit over that like so that you can then bend that to exactly how you want. I get what they were going for with the look of this, for it to look like an actual like big, huge, thick mesh hose, but it just, I don't think it's going to look very good. We'll see. Okay, so we're starting off here with Runner C. This is an older runner from the Master Grade S Gundam. As I said, the first few runners are all from the original S Gundam, which is from 2002. So yeah, pretty old, but we can see there are some nice details on there. And again, not really all that many of these parts are actually going to be used. We have 2 of this C runner. Then we've got Runner E, is just some shoulder parts and a whole bunch of different parts here for that S Gundam, all in red, kind of orangish red color. It's a pretty nice color. I don't know what it is about it though, but this particular red color does seem to be a little bit more brittle usually, so you gotta have to be really careful with the nub marks on this. And then we got Runner F for just some more of the red parts from the original S Gundam here. Then we got Runner G in this dark brownish gray color plastic of ABS plastic for some frame parts that we'll be using for inside the torso. And the Runner H here is just kind of some more of the same. And you can see like this runner, for example, is pretty chopped up. You can see where there's obviously sections of this runner that were not included. And I really wish they would have done more of that, less wasted plastic, and just chopped up the runners more. And then Runner I, again, more of the same in the exact same dark brownish gray color, and ABS parts here for the frame. We have 2 of this I runner. Then we're back to polystyrene here for Runner J1. This is just mostly parts for the Beam Smart Gun here. And this is just going to kind of a standard dark gray color. Actually make that J1 and J2, it's separated into 2 halves for whatever reason. And then Runner K, once again in that dark gray color plastic for some more just kind of joint parts, and I think for parts for the weapon arm maybe on there as well. And then we have another K runner here as well. And then skipping ahead to Runner P, this is back to that dark brown gray color of ABS plastic. This runner is actually from the XS Gundam. So I believe actually this is the part that has, this is the runner that has the parts for the weapon arm, I believe is that what these parts here are for, or for the backpack possibly. Yeah. And then we've got Runner R and Runner S, which are just in that same dark brownish gray plastic color here for the parts for the base and the main arms of the base here. This maybe looks like it's maybe a kind of clear color because you can see the lines from the shapes underneath, the supports underneath, but it's not actually clear. It is solid color plastic. Those are just sinks in the mold, so unfortunately you'll have a lot of sanding to do if you want to get rid of those marks, because those will show through your paint as well. And the runner T1 here is interesting because there is no T2. The reason that this is T1 is because this is actually from the Master Grade S Gundam BST. That was released as a P-Bandai exclusive a couple years ago. And one of the things that I've wondered is if this kit, the Deep Striker, was also originally possibly intended to be a P-Bandai exclusive as well, but then was decided to be released as a full release. That's very possible, but what I would guess these parts are for is the parts for the waist, with the waist being replaced with the booster legs, as was with the VST. And the same thing goes for runner U1 here. Again, there is no other U runners, it's just U1. This is ABS. This would be like the internal parts for what was going inside of what we saw on the T runner here. And then we've got runner V, which is also from the Master Grade BST. What year was that actually? That was 2014 actually, so it's been quite a few years since that was released. This is obviously parts for the fuel tanks for the back. Unfortunately, these are molded down the middle, so you'll have a very long seam line going all the way down that. That won't be fun, but to multiply that by 4, because we have 4 of these, that's going to be even more fun. Okay, then we get to our first completely new runner for this kit, and it's XA1, and all the runners from now are going to be XA, XB, XC, and so on like that. That's how you know the runners that are completely new for this kit. Now, what's interesting about this is that all the new parts, of course, look very nice. We have some clear parts there at the top, so we do have some clear parts for the cameras, it looks like, for some of them, but they're just in plain clear, so if you want those clear green, you're going to have to paint those. Some yellow parts, obviously, here across the bottom, white parts there in the corner, looks like mostly new parts for the head, some new parts here for the chest. But what is most interesting is the runner marking here. It's Master Grade 100 scale S Gundam. It's not labeled specifically Deep Striker. It's labeled just S Gundam. And that means I would put the possibility of a 2.0 or a Verka S Gundam coming out in the future at a very, very high possibility. And we'll probably see this runner again with that kit. And the intrigue continues here on the XB runner. This one is also marked simply S Gundam. This is just back to that ABS plastic here for just the dark grayish brown color for the frame parts. Now what's interesting about this is we can see this section here, which are parts for the booster backpack. This part of the runner is sectioned off, so that can be for the S Gundam. These parts would only be used for a possible 2.0 or Verka, whatever it may end up being, Master Grade XS Gundam. So those would be omitted in whatever possible future S Gundam we might get. Okay, then on to runner XC. It's in the same color, same ABS plastic, but in this case, this is the first runner that we actually have labeled simply as Deep Striker. So as you can see on here, Master Grade 100 scale Deep Striker. So that means that these parts will be specifically probably only for this kit. And so we do have 2 of this runner. And then we have runner XD, which is back to white. And this one, again, it's labeled S Gundam. And you can see the runner is separated down the middle here. So these parts are specific for the Deep Striker and would be omitted on a possible future S Gundam. These parts here are the ones that would be used for an S Gundam. Actually, probably S or XS Gundam anyway. And then we do have 2 of this XD runner. Interesting. This XE runner is back to just that same dark gray color. As you can see, it's mostly just parts for the big booster units for the backpack. So the cool thing is that these are new parts, that they're not just recycling the booster units of the old XS Master Grade Gundam, that we do have these new, but this runner is labeled, once again, S Gundam. So these wouldn't really be used by the S Gundam. So we can imagine that if we see these again, these will be used with, again, a 2.0 or Verka XS Gundam. So that's interesting. We have 2 of this runner, obviously 1 for each booster, and we have 4 boosters, obviously. All right, then runner XF1. We have XF1 here and XF2, which is a copy of this section here. Now, this runner is also labeled for the S Gundam, but we can imagine that all of these big parts here would be omitted for the S Gundam. It would essentially just be these new shoulder parts. So we can see this lower part here, which I believe is parts that were also specific only for the Deep Striker. Those would also be omitted. So these would just basically be our new shoulder parts for the S Gundam. Runner XG here, back to white. This is parts that is specifically here for the Deep Striker. So we can see parts for the large chest unit and new waist unit added onto here, as well as our new seated pilot figure here. It's kind of interesting in this case that it's not a separate figure, but it's actually molded into the seat, which is kind of unique. Runner XH here, just some more large white parts specific for the Deep Striker here. Then runner XI, we're starting to get into the parts for the huge mega particle cannon. You can see the main body part that I pointed out before. Not very separated, unfortunately, though. It is mostly white if you're going just by the cannon colors. That'd be cannon with 1 end, not with 2. Anyway, here's runner XJ. Again, it's just more of the same. Some more new parts here. New stabilizer part there for the backpack. Some more just kind of structural parts for the backpack. And we can see our large parts for the main body of the cannon here. Again, unfortunately in halves. So we have a long seam line all the way down the middle of that. That's really disappointing, I have to say. Runner XK here is back to the dark gray color for just some new parts around on the Deep Striker. And then runner XL is just some structural parts for the base that will be holding up the kind of rear legs. And then I think these are kind of the back end parts of the Mega Cannon. And then last but certainly not least is runner XM, which is our chrome plated parts, which comes in a separately placed baggie. I'll keep these in here until it's time to build the kit, just so I don't scratch the chrome effect on there accidentally. So, wow. There's a lot of stuff in there, and I have to say, I do have mixed feelings at this point. On the one hand, I do see where people's concerns are coming from, that this does seem to be not really up to Bandai's full capabilities in terms of the part separation, just the overall engineering of it. I can already see places where I think Bandai probably could have done better on this kit. But on the other hand, it's a Master Grade Deep Striker, and I just never really would have guessed that we would ever actually get this kit. So the fact that it just got made is awesome. And I just want to say, again, a big thank you to SI Gundam Store for giving this to me, and also a big thank you to you guys for sticking through this long unboxing. And I hope that this information was interesting or useful for you guys. If you want to watch this live on Twitch, I will be streaming this starting from later today, and then over the course of probably a couple different Twitch streams, and then possibly uploading those videos to YouTube later on as well, and then I'll have the review coming for you guys as soon as possible. Leave any other questions and comments you have down below, and I'll talk with you guys later. Bye-bye. Hey! Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you want to check the kit out for yourself, you can head over to USA Gundam Store, use that coupon code ZakuAurelius10, save yourself 10%. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.